My husband looked me up and down in front of his new woman and said, "At least Christina knows how to dress herself." After 8 years of marriage, he threw me away like trash. But baby, he had no idea who he was messing with. Let me tell you how I showed him. Subscribe. Listen, honey, before I tell you this story that still gives me chills, make sure you subscribe because I've got more family drama stories that will blow your mind. Hit that bell, too, because you don't want to miss when I drop these real-life stories. Now, grab some tea and get comfortable because what I'm about to tell you is going to have you on the edge of your seat. You know, they sometimes love makes you blind say when someone shows you who they really are, believe them the first time. But sometimes love makes you blind. And sometimes you need your heart broken into a million pieces before you can see clearly. That's exactly what happened to me on what was supposed to be our 8th anniversary dinner. I remember getting my 8th anniversary ready that night, taking extra care with everything. I had bought this beautiful burgundy dress that hugged me in all the right places, did my hair in those loose curls that Trevor used to love running his fingers through, and put on the diamond earrings he gave me for our first anniversary. I was 30 years old, still had that glow about me, and I thought I was about to celebrate 8 beautiful years with the man I loved more than life itself. But when I walked, my world came crashing down into Chol Lauron, our special restaurant, where he proposed to me all those years ago. My world came crashing down. There he was, my 33-year-old husband, sitting across from some blonde girl who couldn't have been older than 25. She was everything I wasn't. Pale skin, straight hair, wearing this tight little black dress that probably cost more than most people's rent. And when Trevor saw me standing there, instead of looking ashamed or embarrassed, he looked annoyed. "What are you doing here?" he asked like I was some stranger interrupting his date. That's when this Christina girl looked me up and down with this smirk on her face, like she was studying some science experiment gone wrong. And Trevor, my Trevor, who I had loved since I was 22 years old, looked at me with disgust and said those words that still echo in my mind. "At least Christina knows how to dress herself." The whole restaurant went quiet. I felt every eye on me, judging me, pitying me. Here I was thinking I looked beautiful. And the man I had given the best years of my life to was using me as an example of what not to be. Christina actually giggled. This high-pitched fake little sound that made my skin crawl. She leaned into Trevor and whispered something in his ear that made them both laugh. And I knew without a doubt that they were laughing at me. I should have caused a scene. I should have thrown my drink in his face or slapped him or done something dramatic like they do in the movies. But instead, I just stood there feeling smaller and smaller until I felt like I might disappear completely. I turned around and walked out of that restaurant with whatever dignity I had left. And I cried all the way home. But let me back up, and I just stood there tell you how we got to that point. Because this story didn't start with betrayal. It started with love. Real love. The kind that makes you believe in fairy tales and happy endings. I met Trevor when I was 20 and he was 22. Both of us in college. Both of us young and full of dreams. I was the girl everyone knew. Homecoming queen, sorority president, the one with the bright smile and the infectious laugh. Trevor was this quiet, serious guy from old money. The kind of family that had been rich for generations. Everyone warned me about guys like him. They date girls like you, but they marry girls like them, my roommate used to say. But Trevor made me feel like I was different, like I was special. He would write me these long letters about how beautiful I was, how my smile lit up rooms, how he couldn't imagine his life without me. When we got married right after college, I thought I was living in a fairy tale. For the first few years, everything was perfect. We were that couple that everyone envied. Young, beautiful, wealthy, in love. I supported him when his father's business went through some rough patches. Held his hand through family drama and made our house a home that he loved coming back to every day. I gave up my own dreams of things started to change, becoming a teacher because he needed me to be the perfect wife, to host his dinner parties, and smile pretty at his business events. But somewhere along the way, things started to change. It was little things at first. Comments about my hair being too natural, suggestions that I should dress more like his business partners' wives, jokes about my family that weren't really jokes. His mother, who had never warmed up to me anyway, started making these passive-aggressive comments about how I wasn't quite right for their family. And Trevor, instead of defending me, started agreeing with them. The signs were all there, but love makes you stupid sometimes. When he started working late more often, I believed him. When he stopped complimenting me the way he used to, I thought maybe we were just getting comfortable. When he started comparing me to other women, I thought maybe I just needed to try harder. I spent 8 years trying to be perfect for a man who is already planning his exit strategy. I found out about Christina through his sister of all people. She called me one she called me day, drunk and guilty, babbling about how she couldn't keep the secret anymore. Apparently, Trevor had been seeing this 25-year-old for months, taking her to all the places we used to go together, buying her gifts, promising her the world, and the worst part, everyone knew, his whole family knew, his friends knew. Probably half the country club knew. I was the only one living in ignorance, still playing the role of the devoted wife, while my husband was building a whole new life without me. When I confronted him, he didn't even deny it. He just looked at me with this cold expression I had never seen before and said, "I've outgrown you." Like I was a pair of shoes that didn't fit anymore, something to be discarded and forgotten. He told me I was holding him back, that I didn't understand his world, that Christina was more sophisticated, more worldly. He made me feel like I was some country girl who had gotten lucky, and now it was time for him to upgrade. The divorce was swift and brutal. His family lawyers made sure I got as little as possible, painting me as some gold digger who had trapped their precious son. I walked away from 8 years of marriage with I walked away barely enough money to start over, no friends because they had all chosen sides, and a shattered sense of self-worth. At 30 years old, I moved back into my childhood bedroom at my mama's house, feeling like the biggest failure in the world. Girl, I fell apart completely. I spent weeks in bed crying until I had no tears left, staring at the ceiling and wondering where I went wrong. I had given Trevor the best years of my life, supported his dreams, sacrificed my own ambitions, and for what? To be thrown away like yesterday's newspaper. When something younger and shinier came along, I felt like I wasn't worth anything. Like maybe his family had been right about me all along. My mama tried to comfort me, bringing me soup and telling me everything would be okay. But I couldn't see past the pain. I had lost my identity somewhere in those 8 years of being Mrs. Trevor Hamilton. And now I didn't know who I was anymore. I felt like I had wasted my grandmother's entire 20s on someone who never truly loved me. And now I was starting over at 30 with nothing to show for it. But it was my grandmother who finally snapped me out of it. She was 65 years old and still fierce as ever. And one day she marched into my room, threw open the curtains, and sat down on my bed with this serious expression on her face. "Baby," she said, "let me tell you something about our family that I should have told you a long time ago." That's when she told me about my great-grandmother, a woman I had only heard whispered stories about. Turns out she went through something very similar. Married young to a wealthy man who eventually decided she wasn't good enough for his social circle. But instead of letting it break her, she fought back. She built her own life, her own reputation, and showed everyone exactly what they had lost. My grandmother pulled out this old chest I had seen in her closet, but never paid attention to. Inside were photographs, documents, jewelry, and clothes that told the story of a family legacy I never knew existed. My great-grandmother hadn't just been beautiful. She had been powerful, connected, respected in ways that Trevor's new money family could only dream of. She had royal blood in her veins, connections to families that had been important when Trevor's ancestors were still trying to figure out which fork to use at dinner. "We got royal blood in our veins, royal blood running through our veins," my grandmother told me. And for the first time in months, I felt something other than sadness. I felt curiosity, then pride, then something that might have been hope. She showed me pictures of elegant women in beautiful gowns, standing with confidence and grace that you couldn't buy or fake. "You come from Queens, baby girl. It's time you remembered that." Just when I was starting to process all of this information, my cousin Angela from Atlanta came to visit. She was 32, successful, and had this way of carrying herself that commanded respect wherever she went. When she saw me, still in my pajamas at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, she shook her head and said, "Girl, you need to remember who you are." She spent the next week helping me go through my grandmother's things, teaching me about our family history, and showing me how to see myself differently. We found elegant dresses that still fit perfectly, jewelry that was worth more than anything Trevor had ever bought me, and photographs that proved our family she helped me understand had been rubbing shoulders with society's elite long before his family had their first million. But more than the material things, she helped me understand something crucial. I hadn't lost myself in that marriage. I had just forgotten who I was. The grace, the elegance, the strength that I thought I lacked. They had been there all along, buried under years of trying to fit into someone else's idea of who I should be. My cousin introduced me to her friends, and suddenly I was meeting people who knew my family name, who remembered my great-grandmother with respect and admiration. I learned that our family had connections throughout the South, that we were invited to events and gatherings that I had never even heard of. These weren't new money parties where everyone was trying to prove something. These were old families, established families, families that understood real class and sophistication. For the first time since my divorce, I started to feel like myself again. Not the woman who had tried so hard to please Trevor's family. Not the girl who had bent herself into impossible shapes to fit their expectations, but the real me. Strong, beautiful, confident, and worthy of the real me respect. I started taking care of myself again, working out, eating well, dressing in ways that made me feel powerful instead of just pretty. My 55-year-old aunt took me under her wing, teaching me about true elegance and grace. "It's not about the clothes, baby," she told me. "It's about how you carry yourself. It's about knowing your worth and never letting anyone make you forget it." She taught me how to walk into a room and own it. How to speak with authority, how to command respect without saying a word. I was learning how to be fabulous all on my own when the invitation arrived. Trevor's business partner called me personally, which was strange enough, and asked if I would like to attend their annual yacht party. At first, I thought it was some kind of joke or mistake. Why would they want the ex-wife there? But then I realized they had heard about me. Word had gotten around about my family connections, about who I really was, and suddenly I was worth knowing again. My family rallied around me, helping me prepare for what we all knew would be the grand entrance back into Trevor's world. But this time, I wasn't going as his embarrassing ex-wife or the girl who didn't know how to dress. I was going as myself, a woman with royal blood in her veins, connections that went back generations, and the kind of class that money couldn't buy. The night of the party, I chose a dress that was elegant. Without being flashy, jewelry that whispered wealth rather than screaming it, and carried myself with the confidence of a woman who finally knew her worth. When I stepped onto that yacht, everything stopped. Conversations halted mid-sentence. Champagne glasses paused halfway to lips and every eye in the place turned to look at me. I moved through that party like I owned it because in a way I did. These people who had ignored me or looked down on me during my marriage were suddenly fascinated by me. They wanted to know about my family, my connections, my plans. They treated me like the somebody I had always been but had forgotten I was. And then I saw him. Trevor was standing near the bar with Christina. And when his eyes met mine, his jaw literally dropped. He looked like he was seeing a ghost, like he couldn't believe what he was looking at. Christina, on the other hand, looked worried for the first time since I had known her. This confident little thing who had giggled at my expense was suddenly clinging to Trevor's arm like she was afraid he might float away. Even Trevor's mother, who had spent 8 years treating me like I was some unfortunate mistake her son had made, came over and actually smiled at me. She was polite, almost deferential, asking about my family and my plans. It was like watching someone realize they had thrown away a diamond, thinking it was glass. When Trevor finally worked up the courage to approach me, pulling me aside to a quiet corner of the yacht, he looked nervous in a way I had never seen before. "You look different," he said, and I could hear the confusion in his voice. He was trying to reconcile this confident, elegant woman with the broken girl he had discarded months earlier. I looked him straight in the eye and told him exactly what I thought of him. I told him that he had never deserved me, that his family's money couldn't buy the kind of class I was born with, and that throwing me away was the best thing that had ever happened to me. When Christina tried to interrupt, probably sensing that her hold on him was slipping, I turned to her with a smile and said, "Honey, you can have him. I've realized I was always too good for him anyway." I walked away from that conversation with my head held high, knowing that I had gotten the closure I needed. I wasn't angry anymore, wasn't hurt anymore. I was just grateful that he had shown me who he really was before I wasted any more years on him. 6 months later, guess calling Trevor who called me? That's right, Trevor. Apparently, Christina had left him for someone with even more money, someone who could give her the kind of lifestyle she really wanted. His business was struggling. His family was asking questions about why he had let me go. And suddenly, he was remembering all the things he had loved about me in the first place. He called me crying, begging me to take him back, promising that things would be different this time. He said he realized he had made a mistake, that I was the best thing that had ever happened to him, that he couldn't live without me. And you know what I told him? The same thing he told me when he threw me away. I've outgrown you. My life now at 31 is everything I never knew I wanted. I'm surrounded by people who love and respect me for who I am, not who they want me to be. I've reconnected with family members who had been waiting for me to remember my worth. And I've built friendships with people who appreciate my mind, my heart, and my strength. I travel when I want, wear what I want, and I will never again shrink myself just to fit into someone else's small idea of who I should be. Looking back now, I realize something important. Losing Trevor wasn't a loss at all. It was freedom. The truth is, he never loved the real me. He loved the idea of me, the version that made him look good and feel important. The version that existed to support his image. And the moment I stopped being useful to that image, he discarded me without a second thought. But in doing that, he unknowingly gave me the greatest gift of all. He set me free. Free to discover who I really was beneath all those years of trying to please someone else. Free to rediscover the confidence, strength, and sparkle that had always been inside me. Because the truth is, I never needed him to be fabulous. The fabulousness was always there. It was just waiting for me to remember it. Waiting for me to stop searching for validation from someone who was never worthy of giving it in the first place. I am a queen, descended from queens. And no one will ever make me forget that again. And that's exactly how you handle a man who doesn't know your worth. Ladies, if this story touched your heart, make sure to hit that like button and share it with your girls who need to hear this message. And tell me in the comments, when was a time someone underestimated you? I love reading your stories. Remember this, baby. You don't lose when you lose someone who doesn't appreciate you. You win when you finally start seeing yourself the way you truly deserve to be seen. Keep your head high. Know your worth. And never let anyone dim your light. I'll see you in the next story.